You ever have one of those mornings where the universe just decides to remind you it's in charge? That was me the third time that week. My front gate exploded like a Hollywood stunt. Honest to God, I nearly wore my coffee. I sprinted outside, and there it was, the HOA's old yellow shuttle bus, wedged in my iron gate horn, blaring steam, hissing. And behind the wheel, same as always, sat Karen. I'm not kidding. She looked right at me with this ridiculous Cheshire cat grin, like I'd set a trap just to ruin her commute. Neighbors were out on their porches, some filming, some just whispering. One kid even yelled, "She did it again," like it was the Friday night game. Now I stood there, and for a second I honestly didn't know whether to laugh, scream, or just sit down and let the absurdity wash over me. Karen stepped out, brushed off her cardigan, and announced that the bus slipped again, her exact words. I nearly lost it. Again, she said, as if my driveway was a booby trap and not, private property. She points to my camera and accuses me of illegal gate placement. I wanted to laugh, but all I asked was if she was okay. She said yes, but her voice wobbled the second she spotted my phone. Here's the backstory. I bought this place 3 years ago, intentionally outside the old HOA district. I had exactly 2 months of peace before they annexed my road, slapped on a 57-page rule book, and started coming for everything from my pickup truck to the color of my porch. But nothing apparently was more offensive than my Iron Ranch gate. Or maybe more accurately, nothing was more offensive than Karen behind the wheel of that HOA bus. She didn't even have a license, just borrowed the shuttle so she could inspect properties like a queen on tour. The first time she hit my gate, the brakes failed. Second time, she swerved for a cat. Now just slipped. 3 times, same spot. I told her calmly, at some point this stops looking like an accident. She fired back that she'd be filing another complaint, and I shot back, "Yeah, with the sheriff, not the HOA." 30 minutes later, the sheriff himself, he's been here enough to know where I keep the coffee, shows up, takes one look and goes, "Let me guess. The bus jumped your driveway again." Karen starts in about my non-compliant gate and all her warning letters. He nods, doesn't even write it down, just asks if I've got footage. I show him Karen grinning, cutting the same corner, hitting the same spot again. Her smile vanishes. He tells her next time the county's yanking the HOA shuttle license. That hit her harder than the gate. She mutters about harassment, climbs into her battered bus, and leaves my yard looking like a scrapyard. I spent the afternoon fixing what I could, every swing of the hammer echoing right through my ribs. Truth is, I'd been playing nice reports, paperwork, polite conversation, but Karen, she lived for control. Every time I ignored her, she found a new angle. Last month, a citation for unauthorized wildlife feeding. I had a bird feeder. Before that, she tried to fine me for overly rustic porch paint. My wife said to ignore her, that she'd burn out. But when I watched that security footage back, saw Karen smirk before she hit the gas, I realized, no, this was intentional. So that night, with the shop lights off, I just watched that video replay after replay. I caught the way she looked at my camera, almost daring me to snap so she could play the victim. But I don't snap, I plan. By midnight, I had a new kind of plan scribbled out. Not revenge, not really, more like justice, poetic and public. Karen loved an audience. So I figured, what if the next time she tried her grand entrance, she got a real show? Next morning before the sun came up, I was at the county permit office talking to a guy who'd seen plenty of Karen's antics. He just grinned and said, "Make sure it's legal and tell me when to watch." I promised it'd be within the letter of the law. The trick was to give Karen exactly what she wanted: attention, but not on her terms. Sure enough, by sunrise, there was a neon orange HOA notice duct taped to my busted gate with so much perfume on it you'd think it was a ransom letter. Immediate removal of hazardous gate structure. I almost laughed out loud. She destroys my gate, then calls it dangerous. My wife looked over my shoulder and said, "She's getting desperate." Desperate is predictable, and I needed that. Instead of reacting, I just folded the notice, tucked it away, and kept fixing the gate. That drove her crazier than any argument. By noon, she was on her porch, phone in hand, shouting non-compliance for the world to hear. Neighbors peered out, some curious, some rolling their eyes. That's the thing about Karens. They think they represent the whole world, but mostly people just try to avoid them. A few hours later, I get an HOA email demanding a formal reckless property modifications meeting. That's code for Karen wants to play courtroom. But this time I spent the afternoon organizing every video, every citation, every email, put it all in a folder called Community Transparency. My aim wasn't revenge, just exposure. Shine enough daylight, even a Karen can't hide. That night over a beer with Jim, retired mechanic, been here since dirt was new. He laughed and said, "She's lucky that wasn't my gate. I'd have welded it to a boulder." That sparked something. What if I could reinforce the gate? Not to hurt anybody, just to make sure the next hit cost her pride, not my wallet. So next morning, I called a steel fabricator, asked for a frame that could take a punch from a tractor, but still looked rustic for compliance. 2 days later, thick metal panels arrived, and by dusk, the old wooden gate was ironclad. From the road, same old gate behind it, a fortress. Of course, Karen noticed the delivery. She marched over, sunglasses, clipboard, the whole villain look. "What are those?" she demanded. "Art supplies," I said. She actually repeated it, baffled. "Art supplies?" For what I smiled, "the kind that stays standing." She muttered about unauthorized construction and stormed off, probably halfway through her next complaint before she even reached her porch. That week, something shifted. People started reaching out. Old couple down the block offered to be witnesses if I ever needed them. Karen's power was starting to slip. Then came the big day. I heard the HOA shuttle's engine before I saw it. Karen once again barreling down, turning wide. My camera caught it all. She slammed the bus into my new gate, and this time the bus bounced. The gate didn't budge. Her sunglasses flew off as the airbag went off, steam everywhere. The whole neighborhood froze. Then Jim yelled, "Guess the gate won that round," and laughter broke out everywhere. Even the sheriff, who happened to drive by, stopped and shook his head. Karen got out face red, coughing, humiliated. I checked my gate, still perfect. "Looks like it's finally compliant," I said. The sheriff told her, "Karen, I think you're done driving today." And that was just the beginning. Within hours, the footage was all over the local Facebook group. Jim posted it, HOA Shuttle 0 Gate 1. Even people outside our neighborhood were cheering. Karen tried to spread flyers claiming sabotage, but no one bought it. Her empire was falling apart. At the next HOA meeting, she strutted in wearing a red blazer, acting like she was on trial at the Supreme Court. Dale, the usually silent chairman, called things to order, and Karen launched into a speech about property hazards. I just played the crash video for everyone, slow motion, time-stamped. You could feel the whole room realize it wasn't an accident. Neighbors spoke up. One said she'd gotten fined for leaving a trash can out 6 minutes late. Another got 3 warnings for painting his mailbox the wrong beige. Yet Karen crashed 3 times and never got so much as a ticket. The room broke into applause, not for me, but for the end of her reign. She stormed out, folders slamming, talking lawsuits. But everyone knew it was over. From that day, the neighborhood felt lighter. Kids played in the street again, folks waved. The HOA didn't vanish, but it was toothless, without Karen. But she didn't disappear quietly. A few nights later, I spotted her outside, taking photos of my gate. Motion sensors lit her up like a stage. I stepped out, midnight inspection Karen. She stammered about property line violations. I pointed to my new sign, all activity recorded for HOA transparency, her face pure defeat. But I wasn't done. With my buddy Sam, who's an engineer, I built a motion-triggered system that released a cloud of neon dust. Totally legal, biodegradable. Just embarrassing. When Karen crossed the line a few days later, pink and blue powder turned her into a walking tie-dye disaster. The mailman applauded, kids pointed, she sped off, covered in proof she'd been snooping. That clip went viral too. She kept filing complaints. Now even the county was sick of her. A county inspector showed up, but I had every permit, every receipt, everything to code. He shook my hand and said, "Best gate I've ever seen." Karen's last gasp was an anonymous vandalism attempt caught on camera. Her and her nephew red-handed trying to paint violation on my gate. Sheriff saw the footage, sent a deputy. That was the day people started walking their dogs past her house just to see her scowl. Her power wasn't just gone, it was a joke. She tried to reinvent herself, organizing community safety initiatives, but no one cared. Meanwhile, Sam and I built a hidden speaker system. Every time someone lingered near my gate, Karen's own voice from past meetings would blare, "This is unauthorized. It was too perfect." When she walked by and her own voice scolded her, the neighbors laughed so hard she nearly tripped running home. Her final act? Filing a complaint against her own HOA board. Wrongful removal, emotional distress, you name it. The sheriff called me, barely holding in his laughter. I realized then Karen wasn't fighting me anymore. She was fighting the silence, the loss of attention. She was desperate for relevance. But the gate stood. The community healed. Kids chalked the sidewalk. Nobody cared what color the mailboxes were anymore. Karen moved away a month later. No one partied, no one gloated. Her absence was celebration enough. The couple who bought her place planted flowers where her cameras used to be. Now sometimes I sit on the bench by my gate, coffee in hand, listening to the neighborhood breathe easy, and I think funny how sometimes the thing you have to fight for the hardest is just peace. And maybe that's the real lesson here. The gate, the battle, the wild stories, they're all just proof that sometimes patience wins where pride never could. So what do you think, folks? Is it better to stand your ground or let things go? Ever had a neighbor like Karen? Let me know down below. And if you made it this far, don't forget to share your own stories, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to keep the peace on our own side of the fence.